When we sit down, it's time for the conversation, and it's time to put some of these factors into context with Judge Lee Muthoga. He's here with us in studio. Judge, thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Now, you have a very interesting background because you've practiced law in the country before you exited to go and be a judge in the international space. Yes. However, you practiced law until the year 2003. Yes, I want us to kind of do a compare and contrast. What are some of the changes that you see in the judicial system currently and that were not there back in 2003 when you exited, and how has this created a proper functioning or a dysfunctioning in the judiciary? Go.
Well, prior to 2003, the judiciary, as we know it, was comprised of the Court of Appeal, which was then the highest court, the High Court, and the magistracy. And the High Court itself had sittings or places of sittings in only, I think, 5 cities of the country. There is a High Court in Nyeri, there was a High Court in Mombasa, there was a High Court in Kisumu, there was a High Court in Nakuru, and there was a High Court in Eldoret.
Okay.
And the High Court was then organized as one court.
Okay.
It didn't have what we have for this now. We have the Environment Court, which deals with the matters of land and environment. We have the Labor Court, which deals with matters labor. And there's the Civil Court, and there's the Criminal Division, which deals with the matters crime, and so forth.
So has the diversification helped improve the functionality of the judiciary, or what would you say?
I would say yes, it has. But the problems in the judiciary aren't really, they are more to do with the manner in which work is organized and the manner in which accountability flows. Yes, the division into various divisions helps in administrative conception, but I think the real cause, and I am making the assumption that the real complaint about the judiciary is the fact that it is not digesting quickly enough. It's not eating into the backlog quickly enough to stop the backlog from growing.
Allow me to just interrupt and ask, if we have more courts than we did 20 years ago, meaning we've hired maybe more judges. Okay, the the CJ rather says Kenyans are filing cases every single year. The number of cases going to court are increasing on a yearly basis. However, the kind of resources that we had are more than the resources we had back then. There is a discord somewhere. What are some of the fundamentals in the judiciary that we need to change to ensure that the judiciary can handle the number of cases that go in?
Now, I'm going to make a very daring argument. Kenyans have become much more litigious in 2020 than they were in 2003.
Okay.
This is a process probably brought about by the change in the constitutional setup. The constitution came and said access to justice is a right and everybody must have access to justice. And it went on and said you can litigate or you can bring suits anytime and anyhow. Restrictions that used to exist to limit the capacity to access justice or the desire to access justice were removed. And therefore, the number of cases that are actually filed per day in time has increased very, very, very much.
How about the functionality of the judiciary in itself? Is there somebody holding judges to account to ensure that as cases come, they are heard and they're resolved?
There's that is what I told you, that one of the, what I think is a principle, one of the major causes of the malfunctioning of the judiciary is its administrative structure, how it is structured. When I'm speaking lightly, I say it is designed to fail.
How?
Because accountability is very limited. Judges and magistrates, or judges particularly, have taken the view that no one, not even the Chief Justice, can ask them whether they did any work today or didn't do any work, or how much work they have done this month or this year or whatever. In good old days, in the earlier years, for instance, the courts had people called court supervisors who used to actually run through the courts in the countryside and so forth and find out how many cases were determined during this month, how many were filed this month, and so on and so forth. And they kept a very good record, and the registrar would require explanations from magistrates and others who didn't show progress in their work. This has slackened down, hiding under the shield of judicial independence, that nobody can ask a judge what he did or didn't do.
So how do we cut that backlog? How do we ensure there's accountability from the side of judges? Because we'll get to the executive and funding very shortly.
Now, I think the office of the Chief Justice, as I told you, I work in a court, is headed by the president.
Yes.
The president of my court ensures, or the presidency ensures, that all of us have work assigned to us, and work is assigned on the basis, and an assumption is made on when a case ought to end. No case is ever thrown to you to end when you want. If a case is thrown to you, it has an estimate of how long it will take. If that needs to be adjusted, you show reason why it should be adjusted, and so on and so forth. As we are now in the Kenyan judiciary, a case is just filed. There is nobody makes any effort to know how long that case is going to take, why it should take that, and why it should not. And therefore cases tend to never end.
Now, the Chief Justice has said one of the reasons why the courts are slowing down is because of resources. And very briefly, we shall just be crossing to a bite where he is asking the government to allocate a little bit more funds to the judiciary. It's an arm of government. He's saying we're not asking for a lot. We can start at 1.5, then we can go to 2%. And he's saying this way they'll be able to expand courts, they'll be able to hire judges, they'll be able to transfer judges. However, the executive maintains that there isn't enough funds. Let's listen into what Maraga and the president had to say to each other in relation to revenue allocation.
All we are asking from the budget, like it has happened in other countries, give us a percentage of 2.5%. Start with even 1.5%, and we will be able to run our affairs smoothly. We will be able to move judges from one station to another when there is a backlog in one station, and we will be able to go ahead and deal with the cases.
We must also think now, how do we operate? Think out of the box. How do we operate within the resources that we have? Because we can't create more. Why can't we use in-house training facilities and hospitality venues rather than utilizing hotels? We have a whole school of government here. Why do you need to fly all the way to Mombasa to stay at Serena Hotel? Si muende hapa tu, hapa na si mbali. Yeah. Na kuna rooms hapo, muna book. Munafanya conference na wako na chakula mzuri sana hapo na ni bei ya zero. Hata mutapata room for free.
So the president is saying there's no money, you have to make do with what you have and cut down on wastages. However, the CJ is saying whatever you're giving us is not enough to even dispense the basic duties in the judiciary. So let's begin with, from where you sit, what would be the ideal allocation for the judiciary for you to be able to dispense basic duties?
I would not be able to hazard a guess as to what percentage of our budget would be an appropriate budget. I would not quarrel with the suggestion that Justice Maraga has stated of 2.5, but, and this is a big but, every economy must look at itself as its own capacity to do. And I can say this with no chance of contradiction. Judges in Kenya Judiciary have worked more efficiently with much less provision than present.
Then what is
When
the
we had
problem
11
currently?
judges, when we had only 11 judges in this country, we used to produce more decided cases, concluded cases, than now when we have 35 or so High Court judges. There is a need to look through the manner in which cases are distributed and the manner in which they are executed. And people do what you inspect, not what you tell them. People don't do what you tell them. People do what you inspect. If the judiciary is left without inspection as to how much or what work was done, if cases are filed without any reference to when they will be completed or whether they are completed or not, if no explanation is required for those who do not complete within the given time, work will not necessarily move forward. That goes without saying.
So you're saying previously when the revenue was less, the judiciary was able to function. So how can Justice Maraga make do with what he has, as the president has said?
Now, Justice Maraga, not only Justice Maraga, any other person in any government department, you will never get all the money you would like to get, whether it is in the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whether it's you will never get, as long as we are living on a limited budget, you never get all the money you would like to get. What one should be saying is that with the money that we have got, we have done X, Y, Z. If we had more money, we would do X, Y, Z plus A, B, C, and so on and so forth. And that is how it is. But justifying what you have not done by reason that you have not received all the money isn't a very effective way of explaining it off.
Now, the president mentioned the point of cutting down on waste, and this is happening across all government ministries and all arms of government, and the president looks like he's very tough on that. However, the judiciary, and briefly we shall be crossing over to that bite, the judiciary is accusing the executive of some sort of blackmail. The judiciary is saying sometimes we make decisions for or against the government, and when we make decisions against the government, then we are punished because our funds are delayed. Let's listen in to what Maraga had to say on the revenue tussle between the executive and the judiciary, and we'll come back to our conversation.
We make orders against you all the time. We make others in your favor. We do this. And that naturally creates friction in some way or another. When it involves your junior officers, it's like we get problems. We can't even access IFMIs. So we have no funds.
But CJ, your courts are the same ones. When we propose certain tax measures, you are the first ones to say injunction. Hiyo isikuja. Sasa pesa hii itatoka wapi? Where will it come from? Hapana, that one, hiyo unconstitutional, hiyo itakuja review siku hiyo na hiyo. Alafu the same mouth nataka pesa. Sasa itatoka wapi jameni? Wewe umefunga, alafu unasema unataka. Sasa itatoka wapi?
Well, you're smiling at what the president has said. Go.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, both the two gentlemen are taking positions, which neither of them is wrong. It's only that, you see, the Chief Justice is emphasizing the shortage of resources. The President is emphasizing the non-sufficient sacrificial use of resources.
Yes.
Now, you can't say either of them is wrong as such. But I do not think, and I hope I am right in this, I do not think that government releases resources based on what decisions the courts make against government. When a judge makes a judgment, he doesn't make it against a government. He makes against the conduct of an officer of government.
Okay.
And it should never be the reason for that judge or for the judiciary to get or not to get resources.
But the
And I
president
don't think
sounds
it
like
is.
he is mad, saying when we come, we try to bring in measures to increase revenue, but people run to court and you're very quick to place injunctions. He also said there are so many injunctions in court that have stalled government projects, and as such, investors are not coming to Kenya, they're going to other countries.
That's what the president is saying. But I'm saying, and I think I ought to say so, you see, it is a misunderstanding of the way courts operate to think that courts act so as to stop government from getting resources. When the court decides that a decision of the executive is not correct, all it is saying is it has not been done according to law.
Okay.
It can be done according to law. It's just a matter of knowing what the law requires. If it's a taxation measure, if it has not been done according to law, the court will say it's not been done according to law. And what the court is saying is this: do it according to law. When you do it according to law, the court has no power to stop it.
Exactly. So maybe that is where the discord is. Maybe the president understands these injunctions as a no from the court. However, the court is just trying to say, please follow the law.
The law, yes.
Okay. So we hope the two gentlemen can find a middle ground. However, before we finish this conversation, there's a very important issue that has been brought up over and over and over again, and that's the issue of corruption. And during the presidential address that the president gave in Mombasa, he mentioned the Akasha brothers case, which revolved around drugs, and it was a case that was tried here for a whole year and no conviction was made. But when it went to the United States, a conviction, a speedy trial and conviction was given. Let's listen into what the president had to say in regards rather to corruption in the judiciary.
I believe that this case is testimony enough of how cartels were able to use gatekeepers in the executive, in various other arms of government, but also in the judiciary, to sustain a criminal enterprise that led to the direct suffering and deaths of Kenyans. We have corrupted our law enforcement agencies, our prosecutors, our national administrators, but also judges and magistrates. And indeed, Kenyans could not help comparing what happened in the United States and in Kenya.
So from what the president is saying is corruption is deeply rooted. It's in the executive, legislature, and now it's gotten to the judiciary.
Not now.
It's always been there.
It's been there for a whole
So now it's beginning to manifest itself at a larger scale.
Yes.
What reforms do we need to introduce to the judicial system to ensure that it's airtight of corruption? Because the corridors of justice cannot be bought by any amount of money.
It shouldn't be bought by any amount of money.
So how do
Now,
we make it that?
Let me say this, and this one I say with tremendous respect to the judges and magistrates who determine these cases. The fact that you cannot procure a conviction soon enough in the Kenya judiciary is a factor which encourages corruption.
Okay.
If the courts were to work effectively, and the people who are brought before them, and the evidence is brought before them, and the case is completed timeously, within months, not years, people would fear getting into corruption because they would know their days are coming. Now they don't fear because they say, and they can say to you openly, who else has ever been convicted for this corruption? All these cases have been filed. Which one was ever determined? Look at what happened to Goldenberg. Look at what happened to Anglo-Leasing. Look, the fact that courts can allow that to happen, and I want to say that with a broad file, the fact that the court can allow that manipulation to happen means that they are not serious fighters of corruption.
Can we see a way in the judiciary where even the judiciary holds itself to account, so that if a judge is implicated in a corruption allegation, the judge can be brought to book so that charity begins at home? If a court clerk has been accused of tampering with evidence or a file, they're brought to book so that justice and charity begins at home.
You are asking me? I wish we could do that.
Yes.
When Justice C.B. Mandan was Chief Justice, two judges were caught in the act, right? Justice Sachideva and Justice Baya. Chief Justice Mandan called them to his chambers. And I'm repeating this because it is him who told me.
Yeah.
He called them into his chambers. He told them, gentlemen, I have evidence that you have acted corrupt. Okay. You have a choice. You give me a letter of resignation, and the matter ends there.
Okay.
You don't, and there are some people waiting outside here to take you someplace. Both those judges resigned on that day, right?
Yeah.
And now, I think that is the last time that an effective action was taken on corruption of the judges. Over time, judges have tended not to bring their colleagues to account.
Okay.
And there have been instances which suggest very much that even when corruption is believed to exist, where it affects members of the judiciary, the courts are likely to be easy about it, and not be too bothered about accountability.
Okay, so I want us to hold that thought, because this is a lot of information, and it's a lot for Kenyans to even think through, to think that we go to the judiciary system to look for justice, with the hope that we'll get justice, but the judiciary in itself cannot dispense justice within its chamber. It's quite a contradiction. However, I want to take a short breather, and when we come back, because there's a lot of information we've given Kenyans, we'd like to also sample some of their thoughts and hear what they just have to say about this conversation and their thoughts about the judiciary, okay? So we take that breather. When we come back, Social Watch, my mic goes off and your voice comes on. Coming up shortly.